Charles and Dr. Hal. Relate to this.
I'm Jay Tross. I feel like I wanted to say something else, Dr. How. Good evening. How are you tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
Oh, man, listen, I am awesome on this wonderful Thursday evening as we drop a piece of knowledge, a nugget, another one to our audience on this show. Relate to this with Dr. Howe and Jay Tross. So we're here tonight. It's an absolute pleasure. Doc, Howe, let me tell you something I've been doing that I just did actually. So
Okay.
I think I told you last week that that I had been invited
The White House
to the White House. Yeah, to the White House. Yeah.
or the
Okay.
outhouse?
The outhouse. There you go. So
Okay.
invited on to uh, uh, I'm gonna call it a sister station, a
Okay.
brother station, right?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Over, we met up with Alan. You remember we did
Yeah.
a show.
Yeah.
So he invited me on to his show last was that last week? Last week or the week before, some sports thing, right? So
Hmm.
there's this battle going on, and you know how football is, and so there's a guy at my job, and he's a Baltimore fan, and we get to talking back and forth. So Alan's like, y'all should just come on my show. This is, we can debate this on my show. Let's debate on my show. So I went on his show a couple weeks ago, and then after that, he had asked that we kind of come back and
Okay.
continue into this matter. In the meantime, he said he wanted me. He called me to the side and said, "Listen, man, listen, I've been trying to, and I had a few different people on my show to see how they co-host and all this kind of stuff." He said, "Man, I want you to come over here and co-host this show with me, right?"
Hmm.
And I think you went on the show. I think it's Man to Man or something to that nature.
Hmm.
That's this show. It's broadcast. I know I just messed it up. I just did a pub for it, and I didn't mess the whole thing up. But anyway, so we're supposed to do a show. So the show is sports related kind of thing with a he kind of throws some other things in there. So we were on the show Tuesday. Guess that was Tuesday. Tuesday we were on the show. He, myself, and the other guy who I was kind of battling with. So in the show, was supposed to be talking about sports, and so Alan went off on a whole nother deal.
Hmm.
So he started asking questions related to relationships,
Oh, okay.
just random. Started he the question that he had asked is, and I'll make sure I get it right, and I'll kind of paraphrase it. You use the word paraphrase when when you can't remember exactly what a person
Yeah.
says.
Yeah. Hmm.
So instead of plagiarism, you paraphrase, right? So anyway, so it was a paraphrase, and this was the question that he threw out there. He said, pretty much, and I paraphrase, what do men expect out of or from a relationship, right?
Hmm.
Instead of, what do women expect? What do men expect from from a
That's
relationship,
real
right?
simple.
Real simple, right?
Yeah.
So
The list is like this,
like that's
this
like
big.
that's short, right? Um, but we started talking, engaging, and
Hmm.
so I only said this because you know how they say you should give your flowers while the person is still living and not at the
Hmm.
funeral.
Hmm.
So in the midst of that conversation and him, bringing up that relationship thing and what men, and so I think he started going into other aspects and things of that nature. So I said because it went into talking about the 50%, 100%, all this kind of stuff and da 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 da,
Hmm.
right? And they said, where I grew up at, if you study hard enough and long enough, when it's time for you to be tested in your test, you should remember. You'll be able to remember what you've learned along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I said, you know, I do another show, called Relate to This, with Dr. Howe and all this kind. That's kind of how he introduced me on the show. I do this other show, and I said Dr. Howe said this. I said now he didn't invent this quote, but he used the quote, and I said he's used it quite a bit throughout our shows and things that we do. And he said, listen. He said, and of course I'm gonna paraphrase this too, Dr. Howe. But
You
when
do
I
a
was
lot
on
of
the show,
paraphrasing.
when I was on the show the other day, I said it exactly right. He said, sometimes you play the tambourine,
Oh,
and other times you what?
you're on lead.
Yeah,
You lead.
so sometimes you the lead, and sometimes you on the tambourine.
Yeah,
Everybody,
yeah, that's Chris Rock.
yes indeed, yes indeed. So anyway, so I threw that out there, and then I threw some other things. I mean, stuff was just coming to my head, Dr. Howe. You know what I mean? Things were just coming out that you have instilled in me,
Yeah, that's good.
as I always say at the beginning of this show. Our other show, Awkward Situation, I never have to say this, but at least on this show, I always say, I'm not the professional. I'm going to give you something good, but I am not the professional. And that's Dr. Howe. Dr. Howe is the professional. He's the professional coach. He does some counseling, and he does some other great works. And so I said to myself,
Public speaking,
and public speaking as well. Yes, indeed.
motivation,
Motivational.
life purpose.
See when you see. Let me tell you what it's called. It's called self promotion. You gotta
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you can't
definitely.
promote yourself,
Yes.
nobody else is gonna get it right.
Well, hold
So
up. Let me just say this. I help people with relationships
there you go.
because I have botched my relationship so badly. And I have come and I've risen like the phoenix.
Mercy.
And so now I come with this host of knowledge that I want to share with the world, because I went from an unhealthy relationship to a healthy relationship, and plus I also read a lot.
Right.
But I want to share practical stuff, because a lot of times you hear stuff that may not work for our community, or a lot of times you might hear things that may not work for you. So I'm giving you things that I know worked for me, and it worked for the people that I've helped in my profession. So I like to share it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I wanna start the show like this, and I'm gonna throw this question out to you, right?
Mhm.
But it's one of those questions that you get in the interview
Okay.
when you apply for a job. They'll
Mhm.
ask you the question, right? What do you see yourself in 5 years? They'll throw those kind of questions.
Yeah, yeah,
What do
definitely.
you see? And a lot of times, those are the trick questions, right? Those are the trick ones. What do you see yourself in 5 years? Well, in 5 years, I see myself, sitting on an island. And they say, oh yeah, he's not the one. We don't want. So I want you to put yourself in that seat, right? You're being interviewed,
Mhm.
but this is more of a relationship type of interview, right? And this person is asking you this question, and so I want to throw this out to you first. And let's see if we can expound on this and raise it up and see what direction we can go with it. So the question, and for all intents and purposes to our audience, Dr. Howe has not seen this question, so this is a true interview question that he had not seen yet. So this is the question I'm gonna put out to you. Where do you see now? This is me talking to you as an interviewer, right? So I want you to process this, but listen,
Okay.
I want you. What I'm doing here is I'm putting this question because this is one of those questions that are asked in relationships, right?
Mhm.
And not that there could possibly be a wrong answer. It could be a wrong answer, but I want you to tell us in this question, where can people sometime go wrong with their answer and how they do it, right? So here's the question. Where do you see our relationship in the next year or 5 years? And what are your expectations for our relationship? Now, I want to see where you go with it, and I'm gonna tell you how I see this question. Go with the
Okay, leave that question up so I can
uh-huh.
make sure I hit all those things.
Yeah,
All right. So when I am coaching individuals, the first thing I have individuals do is what Tony Robbins calls the rocking chair test.
Mhm.
And the rocking chair test is, You're aged at 85 years old. You've completed your life. You're sitting back and you're reflecting and retrospecting on all the things that you've accomplished. What are some of those things that you've accomplished? So that basically allows you to jump forward in time to see what you want to be referred on, what you want to be remembered for. I call it the legacy. What legacy do you want to leave behind? What memories do you want people to talk about you? If you look at it as you're at your funeral and somebody's getting up to give what they remember about you. What are some of the things that you want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be? And I think any important relationship needs to start with that, because you need to know what you're heading towards before you bring someone else into the show or into the program. And then what you do is you try and find ways to mesh your vision with their vision and clearly outline it so you know what you're working towards. So, for example, with me and my wife, we have what we call a dream house that we're trying to get to, and it's going to be on some water, whether it's salt water, a pond, a lake, a stream, some type of running water. And why is that important? Because relationships have problems. So when we get upset with ourselves or with each other, what I say to myself is this particular thing that I'm upset about worth me giving up my dream over? Or dream of that water house, that beach house? And if it's not, I give myself 20 minutes to get over it. So I'm not trying to stay all night upset. I'm not trying to go all day upset, because then egos take flight. And now I'm waiting for you to say sorry. You waiting for me to say sorry. And the small situation becomes bigger and bigger and bigger because we lost sight of the vision. So where do I see myself in a year? I see myself 1 year closer to our dream house. That's number one. Where do I see myself in 5 years? Well, my wife can retire from her job in 2 years. So in 5 years, I see myself either in our dream house or building our dream house. That's the second part to that question. And you asked me, what are our expectations for our relationship? I want us to be working together, moving towards our vision. Now, why is that important? Because if you and your partner decide on what you want to achieve and what you want your legacy to be, then everything that you do, every decision that you make needs to align with that in mind.
Now, I appreciate the answer.
Yeah, y'all didn't go anywhere near there.
No. And
Okay.
no, I definitely appreciate the answer. And normally I would bring this up on a different show that we do.
Oh, relate to this?
No, awkward situations.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Because my question to you was answers that are, so put it this way, right? So
Yeah.
and I'm gonna tell you how, that's why I said I'll tell you how I looked at the question, right?
Mhm.
When I pulled it, is this person, so you're taking yourself out of it, right? But this person is trying to see where this person's mind is, right? So what do you see our relationship in the next year or 5 years? And so, to that question, oh yeah, next year, I see us getting to know each other and learning, seeing, oh, in 5 years, I see us just, traveling around and, then what are your expectations for our relationship? Oh, that we continue to be friends. Alert, alert, alert.
Friends.
You see what I'm saying? So I was hoping that you were going to give us some tips, which were good answer to what you said, because you brought out some very important points on the future and what it holds.
Mhm.
But this is a question that up and coming, couples and folk who are looking to get into relationships,
Mhm.
different things, they're asking those questions, right? In
Mhm.
the old days, they used to ask, what's your credit score, and you need to go take a blood test. You remember that's what they used to do back, back in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
day. That's what they so in now in this new generation, they want to know, or when you get to a certain age, I'm looking to get married in the next 2 to 3 years.
Hmm.
Or I'm looking to do this. I'm looking to, I'm planning on being a medical doctor. So I'm going to
Hmm.
be in college the next 12 years,
Hmm.
or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But what is from folk that you have counseled and things that have come up, and I'm sure this question may have come up a time or two, or somebody brought that to you. This is what, my boyfriend or my girlfriend said, and about this. What are some of the answers that you have seen come out of these questions?
Yeah, primarily with the females, I've heard them say, "Yeah, we've been dating 5 years now, so
Mm,
I
mm,
hope to be married.
mm,
I at least hope to have a ring within the next year."
mm.
And then you see the guy almost fall to the floor, trying to like he's taken by surprise because he
Right,
may or may not even be thinking about marriage.
right, right,
And so now it becomes an awkward situation, and that's the other show, like you said, where you see yourself in 5 years.
right.
And that's why I said that it's very important that you need to know where you're going, because a lot of times males and females might waste time thinking that they have someone that they want. And because they haven't had those difficult conversations, they're waiting for each other to bring it up. But in the meantime, who's going to lose out the most?
Right. So for the females listening, right? For the
Mhm.
females who are watching and listening, what are some of the red flags from their male counterpart, if you will, right? What are some of the red flags that they should look for if they ask this question or these questions to their significant other?
Well, I will say this: the first red flag is when he's talking about his future, it sounds singular.
Hmm.
Yeah, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I
Mm.
want to do that, and I want to achieve this. I want to go to all these places. If you all have not had that conversation together, and he's talking about all the stuff he wants to do, chances are he don't want to do it with you. He wants to do it, but not with you. And so, right after he says all of that, your next question should be, where do I fit into those plans?
Wow.
And if he does not say, oh, yeah, you're my ride or die, we're doing this together, that should be a major red flag that you need to start seeking the closest exit, because he's going to string you along. There's something about you that he's not sure about.
Hmm.
So he's not willing to make that commitment.
And that could be that what you just said, that second question, that second part is actually this part right here, right?
Mhm.
After asking that year or 5 years, especially if you what you just said, if it's singular, then that follow-up question is right here. What are your expectations of our relationship? Like I heard you say what
Mhm.
um what do you expect from this? Am I, as you just said, am I just being strung along? Is this something that you're looking to make long term? I mean, whatever. So now, on the flip side of that, right?
Mhm.
What are some of the red flags? Because for the male, you're going to get that singular. But what
Mhm.
what have you seen on the flip side of that that males should be alerted to, or red flags should start flying up, and things of that nature?
Red flag is, for me, for a female, a red flag that I would look for is if everything that she says or wants is a gimme, 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 and there's no giving back. If it's all about taking, how much can I get from you? Oh, I want somebody to take care of me by doing this, and I want somebody to do this, and I want somebody to do this, and I want to have this, I want to have that. And it's all selfish type of things. I know a man is supposed to provide, but a relationship is a two-way street. So, what is it that you plan to pour into him to keep him motivated to do whatever. And I'm not saying you're staying at home, staying on your butt or anything. I'm just saying in a relationship, both people need to get something out of it. And so if what she is saying is a lot of what you have to provide and nothing about what they will provide to you, then you need to ask those questions. And if those questions can't be answered to your satisfaction, that is a red flag. Because relationships by nature always start out selfish. Because men are physical and men are visual. We are always attracted to the physical first before we're attracted to anything else. And so what do you provide to us that will allow us to want to stay and to separate you from all the other people with similar characteristics? And I'm saying that because if you're 20 now, when you're 30 and things don't look the same, is he going to be looking for a new 20-year-old to replace you? So what do you bring to his life that will allow him to want to settle down with you in 5 years? The next thing to me that's a red flag is if when she's talking about her expectations for the relationship, it doesn't involve marriage, intimacy, or anything like that, and it's more platonic, and it's more like, yeah, I don't want any kids, but you want kids, or I don't see myself settling down anytime soon.
Right.
No commitment in the near future from them, or I just want to weigh my options and see what's available type of situation. That definitely is a red flag to a guy, that a female isn't taking him seriously. Because a girl can be with you and could be a semi-girlfriend, or you could be her full-fledged girlfriend, but you are her semi-boyfriend. You're a backup until something else comes along.
Right.
That definitely is a red flag. So you got to look for some of those buzzwords, friends and not ready. I'm not ready to be serious. I'm not ready to settle down. I'm just taking it slow type of situation.
Right.
And those to me are the red flags that you look out for.
Yeah, definitely. Now, as you continue along in the relationship, so you're at that 5-year stage, right? That 5-year point. And so now it's time for that. I mean, it probably should have took place after the 2-year, but we just use it for sake of argument, right? You're at that 3-year point, and now it's time for a check-in, right? There's that, that yearly 6 months, 8 months, whatever, checking in. We just in a relationship. So as you check in, you throw this out. This is a 3-parter, right? How do you feel about our relationship? Right? That's one of those, like, here we go, right? And then what do you expect from me? Now, remember, this is after about 5 years. And then how can we support each other? So this is like a 3-parter, but I'm sure
that to me is not even at the 5-year.
Okay.
That to me is something that you should ask on a regular basis. Because think about it. You've been married now a while. How many times, and this is a rhetorical question, how many times have you sat down and asked those 3 questions? And think about it carefully. You got the kids, you got the church obligations, you got work obligations, you got house obligations, and you have all these things going on. How many times do people get caught up in raising kids, and then when the kids go off and leave, you realize that you have nothing in common? You realize that you really haven't had a decent conversation about each other. Every conversation for the last 15, 20, 18 years has been about the kids and what we're going to do for them. And so before you waste your time in starting a relationship, I will ask, what do you feel about our relationship? Get a pulse. Oh, yeah, if they say, yeah, I'm taking it slow, it could be that they've been hurt before, or they don't see you as a potential, or you're just there until the next best thing comes along. So that is a question that should be asked way early in the relationship. What do you expect from me? that to me symbolizes what a person, how serious a person wants to get in a relationship. And if I ask you that and you give me a whole I want. Now this is my time to say, well, this is what I need from you.
Mm.
So to see whether or not they're willing to be selfless also in a relationship.
Right.
Because it's easy to take, but are you going to give also? So that to me is very important in any point of the relationship.
Mm.
You know, because if she don't want a lot from you, it's because she don't plan to hang around.
Right. Absolutely.
So you know, you can look at it from from so many different standpoints, and then that third one right there, that's the biggie right there at the beginning as well as in the middle and all the way in the end of a relationship.
Mm.
Because if you don't know what your partner needs from you, is either that you don't care, you're narcissistic, or you're on your way out.
Right.
And so you should always know what your partner needs. And if you're not having that conversation on a monthly, if not bi-weekly or weekly basis, or every couple of days, hey, what can I do to make your life better today or tomorrow?
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Nobody needs a drawn out conversation.
Right.
But you get a drawn out conversation if 3 years down the line, that person wake up. I remember the worst conversation I ever had. It was at 2:30 in the morning, and my wife said to me, I think we need to have a talk.
Mm.
Ain't no guy like that at 2:30 in the morning.
Right.
And so to avoid that, how can I support you better?
Right.
And you ask that question at a decent time. You get an answer, you write down what they say, and then you go do it. If you value the relationship. And if it doesn't violate your values and your beliefs and stuff. But hopefully you'd have picked someone who has similar beliefs and values, so they shouldn't be saying anything off the wall that should violate anything major.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but yeah, those 3 questions right there are the most important questions that should be asked on a regular basis if you want to create and sustain a healthy relationship.
Absolutely. So the final question related in this phase of things, because
Uh-huh.
I told you I was coming from a different direction with this. So the final one that's in this kind of this phase, and you just hit on it, that value, right? So now remember, these questions are not related to marriages. Remember, these are the up and coming.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about,
Mhm.
doing this. I'm thinking about getting into a relationship. I'm not in a relationship today. But these are those questions, right? So this is me thinking about getting a girlfriend, you know what I mean, or
Okay.
getting a boyfriend, or whatever the case is. So here's that final one in that phase. And like I said, you were right on it. You were hitting it, right? So what values do you think make for a healthy relationship? And then watch this. See, this is where the key is at, right? What are your top priorities outside of work? So this is the one right here. That's
the
out.
killer right there.
Right,
That's the
'cause
one that's gonna chop him down right there.
Yeah, because see, we started from the bottom, right? We
Yeah.
started from the bottom talking about, where do you see relationship? Then we said, how do you feel about our relationship? Now we're saying, what's the value, right? And then boom, I mean, hit you with this. I was soft on you. What are you doing after you get outside of work? So what do you have for us?
All right. So what values do you think make for a healthy relationship? That to me talks about social inheritance. It talks about what they grew up around and what they value, because a lot of times we bring into relationships based on our experiences, based on what we've seen, whether on TV, whether or socially or environmentally. And so that lets you know if you're dealing with a nut job or not on both sides. Because if they say stuff like, yeah, I need somebody to provide for me. I need that's somebody trying to get a meal ticket,
Right.
male or female. Like for example, there are a lot of people who going to medical school or going to law school, and they get that partner and say, hey, you help me make it through law school or medical school, and I'll take care of you. And that person works like a beast while that person is in school. And then once that person get their license, graduate and get their license, that person now want to up and divorce them. So with that being said, I think you should sign a dotted line to make that contract official. Don't assume that person is going to stay with you after they graduate. Say, hey, I need to protect myself, because if you trying to play me, I need to know. So just fill this out. So every year that we are married after you graduate, this number goes down. You understand what I'm saying? Because I put a lot into you.
Right.
I want to make sure that I protect myself. And I protect this relationship, because a relationship has its own life.
Right. Yeah.
And people grow apart. Like, if all you're doing is working and you aren't growing together, what's going to happen is you're going to grow apart.
Right. Yeah.
Relationships never stay the same. They're either increasing or decreasing. And it could be increasing for one and decreasing for the other. So you got to make sure, a lot of times, like, if you see your partner reading a lot and you refuse to read and learn, there's going to be a divide at some point in time, because you're remaining stagnant and they're continually growing. Self-development is very important. You need to bring something to the table. So, for example, my wife is big on history. I have watched almost every documentary on YouTube and on Netflix, because my wife is into documentaries. And I have learned to embrace what she likes. See, I talk about relationships, I talk about science, I talk about education. My wife talks about education, and she talks about history. So I sometimes have to sacrifice what I want to watch what she wants to watch. And she has to sacrifice what she wants to watch sometimes to watch what I want to watch. But we learn from each other.
But let me ask you a question, though.
Okay.
When you talk about sacrifice, you said some key points there. You sacrifice what you like for what someone else like. You're sacrificing, but is it how do you say it? So that's just like, if I like chicken, you like fish. I'm making chicken. Wait, I like chicken, you like fish. So I'm making chicken today, right? Now, I know that you don't like chicken, but I'm going to make the chicken anyway.
Yeah.
Right? I ain't making no fish.
Tomorrow you make fish.
Wait, I'm not making I'm doing chicken. That's it. Whatever. Tough luck, right?
You see, that's not sacrifice.
Wait, right. So I'm making chicken today, right? Of course, like you just said, I'm gonna make fish tomorrow.
Yes.
So, but I made chicken today, so you're gonna starve.
No.
You're not gonna starve because you're gonna eat the rice.
I will eat chicken because I want to live, and because you made it.
So, I'm digging in now, right?
Okay.
So I want to live,
but you also made it.
But also, I don't eat chicken.
Okay.
So I'm gonna get so I'll give you an example. So for a while, like, my wife was vegetarian. I ate chicken. So for a while, she would make something vegetarian and she would make something chicken.
I was just about to say, that to me is sacrifice.
That's sacrifice there, right?
But she don't even eat chicken, but she's making chicken.
Right.
That is the ultimate sacrifice right there. Okay.
So that's why I was saying the difference, because me making chicken today and fish tomorrow is not a sacrifice. What I did was I said, I'm just making chicken and that's it. That's all I'm doing. Now the sacrifice would have been like, I'm not making chicken and I'm not making no fish either day. We're going to just find something that's common for us, and we'll just take this off the menu right now, because it's only a sacrifice if I'm doing chicken and fish today. You see what I'm saying?
But it's also a sacrifice if you make chicken today and fish tomorrow, because even though you don't like fish,
right,
you make it to more. So you would eat a meal that you weren't 100% on board with, but you'll still do it because your wife likes fish. So it's still a sacrifice. Now your wife was doing the ultimate sacrifice because she may not even like the smell of meat, but she's still cooking meat for you.
Right. Yeah, and I've seen those situations before. So, because at the end of the day, for me, if I don't like it, I just won't eat it.
Yeah, and
Be-
then you
And,
start.
so, when you talk about sacrifice, so like you mentioned the Netflix of the
Mhm.
documentary. Listen, if it's not going to jog my mind, I mean, if it's not doing anything for me, am I really sacrificing or am I killing myself?
Well, look, listen. Learning about the past will always help you out.
Absolutely.
So I can't say that I've always liked her shows.
Hmm.
And sometimes she has watched it to the point that I have said, "Come on, after 4 hours, can I get one in?" Like it's been
Right.
four hours of documentary. Can
Yeah,
I get a show in?
because like the kids and stuff, they like the Bacon Show.
Hmm.
Well, I can't watch the Bacon Show every day.
Hmm.
But they'll watch it every day, and so I will sacrifice, sometimes.
Yeah,
But then other times I'm like, I just can't, right?
yeah. But
So
now they have to sacrifice because they have to give up the TV
no,
or
because they're
watch the show.
accustomed now. So they're accustomed to watching even I'll hear them say, before Daddy gets home, we gotta watch our show.
But that's still sacrifice because now they have improvised for them
Right,
to get their show in before you get home.
right,
That's
exactly.
still sacrificing because I'm sure they'd rather watch it while you're home too.
Right, but then there's those times where everybody has an iPad
Hmm.
and everybody watching their own show.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
I've seen. I just went to a friend's house. I'm not going to mention his name in case he come and watch it. The- He has. There's a TV in the living room
Hmm.
that's about 50 feet
Hmm.
from where the other TV is in the kitchen area.
Hmm.
One is his TV and one is her TV.
Mm.
And he said every once in a while, if she's watching something he likes, he'll go and sit in the living room and watch it with her.
Hmm.
But if it's something he doesn't like, then he'll go over to his little spot and he'll watch his television.
Hmm.
So the sacrifice for both of them, like technically we're in the same, almost in the same spot, same room. We're we're still here together, but I'm watching my show and you're watching your show.
That's kind of a sacrifice, but not a full sacrifice.
Well, no, it's not a sacrifice at all.
Look, what I consider to be a sacrifice is we watch one show each, or we watch interchange. I watch one of yours, you watch one of mine, and go back and forth.
And
That's more of a sacrifice.
right, but then in the end, I'm sacrificing, but the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm not enjoying it, right? So it's like going to a movie, right? Let's go watch, scary movie. I'm just making up a movie, right? Let's go to the movies, watch a scary movie. I don't want to watch it. But because I went to Dr. Howe's counseling class and he said I ought to sacrifice, right? So I go to the movie and I'm sitting there the whole time and all the popcorn is gone. So now I can't get no popcorn. So now I'm bored. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is, when does sacrifice become a burden?
The sacrifice becomes a burden when you lose sight of your objective.
It's to spending time with the person.
If you're spending time with the person,
That's the objective.
spend time with the person wholeheartedly. Don't be spending time with a person begrudgingly. Don't be spending time with a person on your phone. Don't be spending time with the person on your iPad. Don't be spending time with a person and sitting there mumbling about how long this show is.
Right.
Like, don't be a miserable person while you pretending to be sacrificing. Because you can pretend to sacrifice, but you making the whole experience miserable because your whole body language is showing that this is a burden for you.
Right.
When I say sacrifice, I mean wholehearted. So my wife has gotten me into these history shows because I succumbed and I said I will learn something from them.
Mm-hmm.
And she has embraced some of my stuff because I have embraced some of her stuff. The problem is we want somebody to like our stuff and pretend like they like it, but we're not willing to do the same for them.
Mm.
So when I'm talking about sacrifice, I'm talking about I enjoy spending time with you, even if it's not one of my top 5 things I want to do.
Right.
And I make it seem like I do everything in my power to make this experience pleasant for you. So my body language and my time and my attention is focused on this time with you versus sitting in the same room. But I can't hear my show properly because your show is too loud.
Mm.
And I'm really wishing that you will go downstairs and watch your own show because this ain't working.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, go ahead. Oh, you good? So,
Let me see. Hold up. The last one is what are your
We done skipped. We gonna hold. We can go. Yeah, go ahead. What are your top?
All
So
right, yeah,
this is
right.
back because
Now
we did go off. We
that's
did go off on a tangent.
important because a lot of people don't have hobbies.
Right.
And if you don't have hobbies, you're not self-developing. And if you're not self-developing, you're not bringing all of the value possible to your relationship. See, I learned history because my wife has a love for history.
Mm-hmm.
So I am bettering myself outside of my regular scope of interest because my partner brought something else into the picture.
Right.
And my wife also gets to enjoy. My wife knows about turtles. She knows about snakes. She knows about a lot of things that I have been involved in. Even though she was scared of snakes, she still learned about snakes. She still brought snakes. She still allowed snakes into the house. And she gave me some guidelines and stipulations and some non-negotiables and boundaries and all that stuff. But the point is, she compromised because it was something that I liked. So what I'm saying is this: having interest outside of work shows that you have the ability to grow and shows that you have an interest outside of me.
Right.
Because a lot of time in relationships, we want two to become the same instead of two becoming one.
Right.
Two becoming one means that we think and move with a purpose, but we have our own interests outside of each other. I'm not a miniature version of you. You're not a miniature version of me, but we're working together to achieve something together.
Mm.
So what are your top priorities? Should be God, family, and then whatever interests you have.
But
Okay.
this is good conversation. But if I'm not in that type of relationship where you just
What type
said,
of relationship is there?
well, no. What I'm saying is, when you just said your top priority should be, and say it in the order again.
God,
Uh-huh.
relationship,
Uh-huh.
interest.
Right, interest. Now, when I said not in that type of relationship, I may not be in a God-centered relationship because
And
I'm not.
it is us
Hmm?
and interest.
Okay.
If you don't believe in God, then
Right.
it's us and interest. But
Us,
if you
interest,
believe in
and
God, it's God, us, and
right.
interest.
Right, because I wanted us to be clear
Okay.
that
Yeah.
that not I'm not I'm I know it's gonna sound real strange. I'm not saying that the priorities are negotiable or they are negotiable but everybody is not in those type of
Yeah,
relationships.
that is true.
But they need to understand that there has to be some priorities at some level. And all of these questions tonight, just so our listeners and our viewers know, these are all in a sense trick questions
Mhm.
that are asked
Mhm.
in these relationships. And so they're asked, so you have to read into the questions so that when you're trying to get into a relationship, when a person is asking these questions, they're asking not just to have this conversation with you, but they're asking because they want to know more about you, who you
Mhm.
are. They want to understand what makes you tick and understand, what are your priorities. So when you get off of work, what do? Man, I go to the bar. Oh, well, see, there that goes right there. They know exactly. You see what I'm saying? Oh,
Mhm.
hey, what do you do? Oh, I go work out.
I gotta unwind.
Yeah, or I gotta unwind, or hey, when I get off of work, I go and I do, I go and do stuff in the community.
Yeah.
I go mentor. So there are a lot of things that become the priorities,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And it's all about and it's all about who you are, and so that's them trying to understand. And the crazy part is almost these questions are almost like lie detector questions in their
Yeah.
own way, right? This is where they're really gonna you can't fake these answers.
Well, you can,
You can, but you
but
really
it
because
becomes difficult.
it becomes difficult. Correct. And if I'm asking you like this, this is no time. One week I ask you, what makes a healthy relationship? Whatever. So these are those questions. But in the end, and I'm bringing us to the last question here, Dr. Howe, seeing
Mhm.
how I can kind of scoot it in here because you're gonna bring this home for us. But in the end, in every relationships, Dr. Howe, let me see if you can answer this question before I even ask it.
Okay.
What does every relationship want? In one word.
Happiness.
No. They want peace.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
want peace. And
But
so
happiness is a form of peace.
absolutely, absolutely. But I was trying to listen, I was trying to bring us into that last
Mhm.
question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So
know.
so Dr. Howe, tell us a little bit, and next week we might be able to expound on it because I know
Mhm.
that there's a book that goes along with this
It's a
concept
book and a training that
and,
goes along
and
with
a
it.
training.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the peace method in relationships.
The peace method in relationships is an acronym, and the P stands for processes. There are processes that are involved in each relationship, and you might want to call them systems of operating that people use in problem solving, in being strategic, in communicating. There's systems that we use. So, for example, if you ask me a question and I don't want to answer it, I might stonewall. And there's systems that I use to stonewall. Or if I want to see if my relationship is healthy or not, there's systems I can use to figure it out. And so the first P stands for processes. What are the processes that I'm using in my relationship to keep it on track? The in P stands for evaluating. Do I evaluate the processes or systems in my relationship to make sure that they are in alignment with what I'm trying to achieve? And so you want to make sure that you are evaluating each part of your relationship to see if it's working properly. The A stands for acceptance. I have to accept the fact that I'm not perfect in a relationship and there are things that I may not be doing correct. And so I have to take ownership for my part in what's not going right in the relationship. So, for example, Mr. Trust, if someone comes and they say to you, my husband's not acting right, there is an active role that you played, or there is a passive role that you played in that. So, for example, if he's not acting right, what if I'm not acting right, what you going to do? You're going to withhold something from me. You're going to threaten me. You're going to give me this silent treatment. You're going to cuss me out. You're going to hit me over the head. You're going to do something. And some of what you might do might be active, and some of what you might do might be passive. But unless we both address the situation, there's an active and passive part that's going on with that relationship. So I have to accept that there's a role that I played in that relationship not working properly. So that's the A. The C, I have to commit to changing myself, not committing to changing you, because a lot of times we want to commit to telling each other what's wrong. because it's easier for me to tell you what's wrong with you. But I'm not willing to look at me and tell me what's wrong with me. And that's where we end up fighting a lot, because I'm telling you what's wrong with you. You telling me what's wrong with me, but I'm not accepting it. You're not accepting it. So we never change. Does that make sense? Okay. So we both have to commit to becoming the best versions of each other. We have to commit to self-analysis. We have to commit to accepting what is wrong. We have to commit to change. So the C in peace is commit to the change that needs to be done. And the E stands for enjoyment. I have to enjoy the process and not the destination. A lot of times people say, well, you know, I'm not going to be happy until he makes this amount of money, or I'm not going to be happy until she does this. She got to lose 10 pounds before I'm happy, and he got to make over 100,000 before I get happy, and I'm not going to be happy until we go on that dream vacation. So now that's delayed happiness. But it's a negative delaying of happiness, because you can be happy before you go on vacation. You can be happy before you get the $100,000. You can be happy as you live your life, because there's always something to be thankful and grateful for. So the peace method, I teach people, whether you do it by yourself, or whether you do it as a couple, whether you do it as a church or as a group, I teach people the peace method because it allows you to identify processes that are or aren't working for you, to evaluate what is working and what is not working, to take acceptance for your role in each one of those processes that aren't working, to commit to whatever is needed in order to create positive change, and to enjoy the relationship before I get to the perfect part of the relationship. Enjoy the process and not the end point.
Wow, wow, wow. And we got those right there at the bottom there. So for those who needed to get those, what the acronym is spelled out to be. Look, Dr. Howe, man, this has been awesome. This has been an awesome episode. Yeah, you passed the fitness test um, in learning relationships and asking those right questions and giving those correct answers. That, and as I mentioned, of course, Dr. House said, you know, there are ways to fake this test, if you will, and this lie detector test, but it will tell. It will come out early in the relationship, and so look for those red flags. Look for those alerts. You know, the I. And you know, hey, we're good friends, and you know, different things of that nature. Look for those. If you're looking for something long term, look out for some of those key pieces, and remember this peace method. Dr. Howe, it has been real. We've enjoyed you having this moment of clarity on this aspect of relationship. And so, as we ask every time we spend this time on the show, we ask our viewers and our listeners, what do we ask them, Dr. Howe?
Can you relate to this?
Look forward to seeing you the next time on Relate to This.
Relate to this. With J. Charles and Dr. Howe.